All right, should be popping up here in just a second. How's it going, everybody? This is the Osmo.com NHL DFS Strategy Show. It is Monday. We've got a 5-game slate to talk about. We'll go over what happened this weekend. Shout out to Alex for showing out at the NFL DraftKings Live Final and the FanDuel one, actually. Did pretty well in both of those. And it's Monday, so I'm joined by Slim Cliffy. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Just last week here before we get into the Christmas week. I guess like we have a show next Monday, but 2 days before Christmas, it's going to be a tough one to bang out.
Yeah.
I'm just like I love the holidays, so I'm just really excited. I mean, before we came on, you heard me listening to jazz Christmas music, so here I am in my red shirt, all ready to go for tonight's slate.
Very festive. Yeah, very festive. A couple, Christmas binks hopefully on the horizon for us and then the subscribers as well. So we'll talk about the slate. Lots of weird notes, specifically in one game. But the pricing is really soft over on DraftKings, which is what we're going to primarily talk about. Might be a good time to go over and play over on Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Yahoo's got some really low management fees compared to some of these other sites. Softer just competition overall, plus the management fees makes it a great place to play. So I've got Yahoo up right now. Lost some money in NFL, but that's pretty much par for the course for me. I tend to lose money in NFL more often than not, but I like playing over there. Gonna get in this $12 tonight. Two max, $200 to first. Not huge prize pools, but they're working on it for NHL. So hopefully we can go support them and play over there and hopefully make some money along the way. NFL contests are pretty big. 175K baller for week 16. I'm guessing they're probably going to have some Saturday only contests as well. Actually, it looks like Sunday is their main slate, but we've got a weird NFL schedule. Have you gotten to play over on Yahoo at all, Cliffy?
A little bit, not very much.
Yeah.
It's just I just mainly play on DraftKings. It's hard enough for me to
Sure.
pay attention to one site. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a couple sites gets tough. I don't know how these guys Alex and Tom and all these guys play multiple sites every night. Like I have enough trouble trying to manage both Yahoo and DraftKings. So
And it's not even just one site, right? Like people that play like 4, 5, 6 different sports,
yeah,
like that blows my mind because I find like even focusing on just two through the run of the year is hard enough.
yeah, for sure. Kellen in YouTube chat says pricing is soft on Yahoo too. Yep, we've got soft pricing kind of across the board. So this should be a good one. I think we're gonna kind of know where the best plays are. So we'll get into that in just a minute. We do have a free giveaway going on for NFL as we have for every Monday Night Football game. Pretty simple. Just guess the player that's going to score the most fantasy points. Let's see. It's Saints Colts. Do you play any season long fantasy football, or are you going to play any showdown tonight?
I don't play like NFL Showdown. I do play season long. Knocked out of one league last week. I only play a couple leagues. One league last
Yeah.
week, one league this week. I don't play much for DFS. I'll throw in like $20 every Sunday or something just to have something to do. That's about it.
Yeah, man. I've got some playoff sweats. So for season long, and then I'll be playing some showdown. I use the tools on the site. Like I'm not great at NFL DFS, but I've become better with some of the tools on the site. We've got Awesomo's Top Showdown and single game plays for DraftKings and FanDuel that are also free today, which is a pretty good deal. Really cool tool. Shows you like which players are going undervalued. This will get updated once we get ownership, and then this will be a very, very good tool, like especially if you're hand building or if you can somehow figure a way to get this worked into MME formats as well. Expert survey for NBA, also going to be free. I think it's a 7-game NBA slate. And then finally, last but not least, the NHL skater projections. Well, skater and goalie projections. Those are also going to be free. So if you have Fantasy Crunch or whatever, but not through us, this might be a good opportunity to see if you like the projections that we offer for DraftKings and FanDuel. We got the goalie stats and skater stats as well, and I don't think we have that for other sports. So check those out. All right, let's go over lineup study from Saturday. A couple familiar names up at the top. Dollar Bill took down the Dollar Bill W, I should say, took down first and second in the $10 tournament. first place was Jonathan Tays with Kubalik, 2-man, Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak with Torrey Krug. So just your Boston one full stack with Krug. He did have Saad in there. So just your basic 3-3 uncorrelated goalie with Bernier getting the win against Montreal. That game completely burned me. Do you remember this slate we're talking about on Saturday?
Yeah. Because I had a fair amount of Montreal one as well. And actually, I had Detroit. I think I had more Detroit than Montreal actually on this slate. So it started well because I think Detroit got an early goal and then just nothing after that.
Yeah. Montreal, what a dud. I mean, they waited like 58 minutes to score their first goal. Thought we might get there, just like, run crazy hot there with like a couple goals at the end of the game, and then they get one in OT or something, but they just scored one. And so Bernier was the play at 1.4% ownership, $7,100. We've seen this work out like a bunch this season, especially with the new DraftKings scoring. Like, you hit the 35 save bonus, you take these goalies in what looks like terrible spots for them to get the win, but like even a guy like Bernier, who's not even very good, I think this was a back-to-back for Detroit as well. Like, if you're going to see volume, you're cheap, you're probably like, you've got a shot at being the GPP winning goalie. So you don't like to correlate your goalies that much, or you don't go out of your way to do it, I should say.
Yeah, that's right. I don't make it a point to always have correlated goalies. So like, I think I had only one or two Berniers on that night, but I did correlate them with Hronek because I did want some of Hronek on that slate. But I think we're just seeing, like, obviously the cheap goalies can bust. That's why they're cheap, is because Montreal could have easily thrown up a 5 or 6 spot in that game. And then Bernier's pulled by the middle of the second period with a negative score. But obviously we saw the other end of the variance spectrum, and that's something that people have to keep in mind when they're picking their goalies on pretty much any given night.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, it has changed a little bit, but I still, on those bigger slates, like what Saturday was, I'm still like more apt to just correlate in the majority of my lineups at least, and then just hope for the win. And, maybe you get a goalie that gets a couple goals scored for his team early, and then he's seeing a bunch of lower danger shots towards the end of the game and picks up a win. Maybe you get lucky and hit that bonus as well. But yeah, goalie position, pretty brutal to try to figure out. Where's Taylor Hall going? I know you're a big like real life hockey guy, whereas I'm not as much. Like, I love watching and stuff, but I'm not plugged in maybe like you are. So Josh Harris in chat asks, where's Hall getting traded?
I mean, it certainly seems like it's going to be Colorado, right? Like, that's why he was kept out of the lineup on the weekend. Like, they were playing in Colorado, I think it was on Saturday night. And it seems like all the smoke, like, is coming from the Avalanche. Like, I know we just had a report earlier today that Florida was in trying to get him, but the Devils aren't letting anybody talk extension. So teams are just like, well, if we can't talk extension with him, then we're just, we're not going to pay the price that you're asking.
Right.
So it's really starting to limit the pool of teams. And I think Colorado has enough prospects where they can probably lose one big prospect and get Taylor Hall for a rental only for this year and still be fine with it. There aren't a lot of teams in a position like they are.
So Elliot Friedman just actually tweeted this right now, so maybe that's why Josh asked. There's word this afternoon that New Jersey and Arizona are working close on closing a Taylor Hall deal. So right as I said that, just happened like just now, a couple minutes ago. So I don't know if you want to read up on that and see. I don't know. I mean, Taylor Hall in Arizona, like.
Yeah, like Arizona was the other team that was involved, but I thought I had read something yesterday where, New Jersey was asking for young, cost-controlled players, and it certainly seemed like they were indicating it would be Chychrun. And I think that's a pretty steep price to pay for, 3 months of Taylor Hall plus whatever you get in the playoffs. I mean, it makes sense for Arizona. I think Arizona should probably go for somebody a lot cheaper as the team keeps building, somebody like Tyler Toffoli. But, I mean, if they're going to do it, they need goal scoring. They have the defense. They have the goaltending. They just need the horses up front. So it makes sense. I probably wouldn't do it depending on the price, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see. I was asking you, maybe you had some insight, just where I'm gonna buy this Taylor Hall jersey. Looking like he's one of my favorite players. So
I mean, I definitely wouldn't buy one because like wherever he gets traded, he might not be there
yeah, just a
in 8
rental.
months' time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're probably
so
right.
I'd definitely hold off until July before buying one.
Yeah, good point. Good point. All right, let's talk about these 5 games. Should go pretty quick. Like I said, I think we're all gonna know. Like everyone's gonna be on the right plays. But is there anything you're looking to do to differentiate yourself on a slate like this where we've got soft pricing? Are you more likely to do like 3-3 stacks with it being a 5-game slate and pricing is so like wide open, or would this be more like you're looking to power play stack, you're looking to 3-2-1 and stuff like that?
I think as far as constructing my lineup, I think expensive defensemen would probably be one thing that would normally change for me. It's not to say I don't use expensive defensemen, I do, but like with normal pricing on a 9-game slate, I mean it's the Rangers, so I'd probably have a lot of Yossi anyway. But like I might not have a lot of Roman Yossi at 7,300. You know what I mean? Like I'm somebody that usually caps out at about 6K when I'm picking my defenseman. But where there's so many good lines on this slate at like 14 and 15K, like you can roster John Carlson in your Washington power play stacks. You can roster Roman Yossi with your Nashville power play stack, or just, you know, by himself. You can roster Oscar Kleppon by himself. Like if you don't, if you're worried about Edmonton splitting up Draisaitl and McDavid, like it looks like they have, one easy way to get around that is, you know, Kleppon's still going to be on the ice with both of them on, you know, at even strength and on the power play, et cetera, et cetera. So I think on a slate like this, it doesn't really change how I build my lineups, but it will change what those, you know, the players included and the range of players that I'll include. Like I'll have a lot of Yossi here tonight because there's so many lines, like I said, in the 14, 15K range.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Ton of the expensive defensemen. I think there's a bunch of guys in good spots. You mentioned Clefbaum, but and especially Yossi. Like he's going to be my highest owned guy, which will be surprising to no one that watches this show on a regular basis. Let's go to Ottawa and Florida. 2.8 implied total for the Senators, 3.7 on Alex's totals for the Panthers. Again, these are Alex's totals. These are going to be a little bit different than what you see if you're looking at some betting sites. But he's got 3.7 for the Panthers, the highest implied total on the slate. Anders Nilsson and Sergei Bobrovsky expected to go. What are we doing with these new Florida lines? These are how they skated earlier today. Barkov with Vetrano and Connolly, or maybe it was yesterday. Either way, Trocheck with Huberdeau and Achari, and then Brian Boyle with Hoffman and Dadonov. What do we do with these guys? Like, are you full stack these lines? Is this a game you're power play stacking with Florida? Because it seems like a great spot with a huge total.
Yeah. One thing that we talked about before the show was how the Florida total has come down during the day. It started, I believe it started at 4 and it's come down to now 3.7. What I mentioned in my power play articles today at Osmo.com was that Ottawa is a lot better team than I think people realize. Their metrics aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, they're pretty good. If you look at just actual goals against at 5-on-5, they have a lower goals against per 60 minutes than Florida does. Like they're not the punching bag that I think people thought they would be. I mean, they probably were through the first month of the season, but they've certainly looked completely different, a lot better over the last 6 or 7 weeks. So I don't know if attacking Ottawa 5-on-5 is the best idea here. One, because I think I think a lot of people, anybody that's followed Joel Kenville's career behind the bench, would know that he can change up lineups on a whim. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he hasn't done that much in Florida, you know, nearly as much as he used to in Chicago. But I think with the little slide that they're on and then changing all their lineups, like we could see a lot different line combinations at even strengths. So that's one concern. And the other concern is obviously that I think Ottawa's a better 5-on-5 defensive team than people realize. So what I mentioned in my power plays article is that if you're going to attack the Sens, I think the way to attack them is through the power play, you know, through their penalty kill, the power play for the team that you're going to be using. So for tonight, it'd be, you know, Barkov, Dadonov, Hoffman, Huberdeau, Yandel, those 5 guys. the three guys that I have in my article are Barkov, Dadonov, and Hoffman. Dadonov and Hoffman are on that third line together. I know that they'll probably avoid Pajot and Tkachuk, which is a good thing because those are probably the best two-way forwards that Ottawa has. Even though their depth is fine defensively, it's just those are the better players. And if Barkov is going to get involved, if the top line scores, Barkov's going to be involved, right? Like it's not going to be, Frank Vetrano going end to end by himself. Barkov is going to have to set that up. So where you get the two guys on the third line on the same power play as the Barkov one, I'm going to be using Barkov, Dadonov, Hoffman, I think, as a power play stack because Ottawa is like 26th in shot attempts allowed on the penalty kill. They're taking, I believe it's the fourth most penalties per game, like allowing the fourth most shorthanded opportunities. So Florida should get their power plays in this game, 3 to 4 power plays. And they're not, like I said, they're not very strong on that penalty kill. So I think if you're going to attack the Sens, the way to do it is through Florida's power play. So some combination of the forwards. I'm going to have Barkov, Dadonov, and Hoffman. If you want to take off one of the wingers and add Huberdeau, if you want to just add Huberdeau and go with a straight 5-man power play stack, I'm fine with that too. I don't know if I would stack the 5-on-5 lines outright and, just say that's my lineup. I just don't think that's the way to attack the Sens here tonight.
Yeah, so that's what I started doing, and it's like they all grade out as really good values, and it's not like you can't score in the Sens at 5-on-5, but the power play stack would be a good way to differentiate. So I usually do like full line stacks when the slate's bigger than like 3 or 4 games. So we got a 5-gamer tonight, obviously, but I like the idea of going with Barkov and 2 out of the 3 of Huberdeau, Hoffman, and Dadonov, and then maybe throw in Yandel as well. I know it's kind of a tough price to pay for Yandel at 5K, especially if he's going to be on this third pairing and maybe a drop in minutes, or you would expect a drop in minutes. I mean, he's went from 25 to 20 last game, and now he's listed on the third pairing. But he's 5K. You would think it's a pretty good chance to get some power play assists at the very least, and he's probably going to play like close to 20 minutes. So I like 4-man stacking it. You can certainly 5-man stack it as well and go with like a 5-2-1 or something like that elsewhere if you like a 2-man stack. But yeah, Florida's coming up a ton in my power play stacks. Speaking of power plays, I did put the link to your article. That's a free article. If anybody wants to read that, we call it the power plays. It's Cliffy does a great job of that on Mondays and Tuesdays are the days that he does that. We've got Wassel and Vots doing it on the other days. So go check that out. Anything on the Ottawa side you want to talk about? Maybe a top line that's been pretty good lately?
Yeah, see, that's why the pricing drove me nuts today because like I was really hoping to use a lot of Ottawa 1. And then I saw the price, like they're $18K, like they're only $300 cheaper than the Ovechkin line. So like I don't know how much Ottawa 1 I'm going to have. I'm definitely going to have some of them. And by Ottawa 1, I mean Pajot, Connor Brown, and Brady Tkachuk. They're expensive. That's the thing. Like they're too expensive compared to the rest of the slate. That's the issue with them. But like we talked about a little bit before the show, it was 2 weeks ago. Pittsburgh 1 was just wildly overpriced. Brian Russ was $6,800. The entire line was like $23,900 or something like that, and they just went absolutely nuclear.
Yeah.
Like 6 goals and 9 assists or something like that. It was just stupid. So, obviously I'm not expecting that from Ottawa here tonight. But Florida's not a very solid defensive team at all. Mm-hmm. Like I just mentioned how they actually are allowing more goals than Ottawa is. The Ottawa top line has good metrics. I mean, I'd kind of rather Duclair there because it gives him another shooter over Connor Brown, but we'll take the savings. That's fine. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to go down to the second and third lines here. I think that's I don't mind. Like if you want to use Duclair as a one-off, I'm fine with that. If you want to use even Tyler Ennis for the power play as a one-off for 4K in tournaments, not cash games, in tournaments, I'm fine with that too. But I think if you're going to stack the Ottawa side, it's the top line or bust. It's just, I can't see them having much ownership here tonight. Like I said, where they're only $300 cheaper than Ovechkin's line.
Yeah, so they're a line that I like getting overweight on at the very least. Like you mentioned, the good metrics, Peugeot and Kachuk both on the top power play. You can add Shabbat in there. You don't necessarily need to. He's kind of pricey at almost 6K. Hasn't been the same sort of player this season as we saw last year in terms of just like getting points and stuff like that. But that's really the only line I have interest in on the Ottawa side. So yeah, I was pretty frustrated with the pricing. Like I wish they would have priced them down just a little bit. Like bring Kachuk under 7K, maybe bring Peugeot down to like 5,500 or something, and make it at least a conversation. But yeah, you like the Pitt 1 spot a few weeks ago. You wouldn't be shocked if this was the top scoring line on the night, and they're probably going to be what, like a fifth of the ownership of some of these other top lines, maybe like a tenth. If a line gets to like 25-30% tonight on ownership projections, I think this line might come in at like 2 or 3%
I think,
as a whole.
Yeah, like in my head, I was thinking it'd be around 5%.
Yeah.
Because Dallas won and Washington won and all those lines are just all similarly priced, and that's where the public is going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we actually did just get ownership projections. And I saw the donation in chat. Wow, that's really cool, man. Mac Motivation. So I saw he messaged in the chat the other day that he banked 10K. So gave us a very generous donation. So thanks for that, man. Hopefully more binks to come for you. Maybe that was your first big one. If so, congrats. That's really awesome. All right, so ownership projections. I just want to check quick on where we have like Connor Brown. I'm guessing he's going to be the lowest.
I mean, they have Brady Kachuk at 1.9%.
Yeah. So even if it's double that, like I think this is a line you should take a couple shots on if you are multi-entering at the very least. And like in a 3-max single entry, like no one's going to have this line.
Yeah, if I'm single entering tonight, like this is a line I give serious consideration to. And it's the same thing like in a 20 max or 150. Like if you're in a 150 max and you have this line in 10 lineups, you're probably going to be double the field. Like you don't have to go heavy on them to be way overweight. Right. So I'm going to get exposure. It's not going to be heavy, but I'm going to make sure I have a couple lineups with them in it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm playing 100 lineups tonight. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I like to mention what I'm doing so you guys know kind of how I'm talking or how I'm approaching the slate. And I'm doing 100 tonight, I think in that 15. I don't really like the $15 contest, but whatever. It appears it's here to stay, at least on Mondays. Taylor Hall apparently traded to the Coyotes. Is that official? Oh, boy. News breaking right as we get on the show. All right, let's go to – do you have anything else you want to talk about in that game, Ottawa, Florida?
One thing I did mention in my article was, like, Ron Hainsey. Like, I know – like, we could make fun of Ron Hainsey, but with no Zaitsev – in the lineup and no DeMello in the lineup and no Christian Yaros in the lineup, like that's 3 defensive regulars out. Hainsey played 26 minutes last game. He's probably going to play over 25 minutes again. You know, you're hoping to donk an assist, but really this is about maybe he can get 1 or 2 shots and then get that shot block bonus with 3 blocks. That's like, I don't mind for complete salary relief to punt a defenseman. I don't mind Hainsey here tonight. I
like the call. Yeah, especially if you're punting. It's not like there's a lot of great options, but at least the minutes are somewhat locked in for 2,700. Predators, Rangers, 3.2 implied total for the Preds, 2.9 for the Rangers. I got to update this total. I think it may have moved a little bit, but we're expecting UC Saros for the Preds, Alexander Georgiev for the Rangers. I think we've had these Rangers lines, but I'll go through them. Zibanejad with Kreider and Buchnevich. I think we've seen them for a couple of games now. Strome with Panarin and Kakko. And then who really cares about the rest? On the Preds side, it's going to be Ryan Johansson with Forsberg and Cal Yarncroc, and then Duchesne with Turris and Sissons. It appears Granlund's going to be out for a little bit. He skated after practice. Benino, Smith, and Grimraldi. That third line that I think has pretty good numbers, actually. So we'll mention Nashville 3, but what's kind of your favorite approach to this game?
So, number one is I really do like that top line for Nashville. Johansson, Yarncroc, Forsberg. They don't have a ton of time together, but they're at like 90 minutes. And they're at over 3 goals expected per 60 minutes, which is really, really high. Like 2 standard deviations above the mean is like 2.73, and they're at 3. So they're doing very, very well offensively. They're not super expensive. I believe they're under 16K. They're like 59 or 15.8 or something like that. So they're not expensive to use, which means that you throw in Roman Josi with them, and all three guys are on the power play together. We talked about how penalized Ottawa is. The Rangers are also one of the most penalized teams in the NHL, and they also don't have a very good penalty kill. So with that perfect correlation for Nashville's top line, I do really like that spot. I obviously ownership is a concern here because any top line playing the Rangers, it's going to be a concern. I think we have them somewhere around the 15 or 18% marks on our Osmo projections, so they're going to be owned. But you can differentiate elsewhere. Like I said, if you throw in Roman Josi, that helps. You can throw in one-offs elsewhere. It's a really, really good spot for that top line. Like we mentioned earlier, Roman Josi's probably got to be one of the top plays of the entire slate, even at 7,300. Matthias Ekholm, it doesn't look like he's going to play tonight. So, where they used to have the top four that they'd run out all the time, they traded Subban, so it became the top three. And now with Ekholm out of the lineup, it's really the top two. Like, I think we see Roman Josi get close to 30 minutes in this game. So it's going to be really, really hard not to play him. If I were on the Rangers side, there's a couple ways to go about this. One is that I think the top line is going to come in lower owned. I think this Zibanejad Kreider line is going to come in lower owned than the Strome, Kakko, Panarin line. But here's the thing: is Nashville's second line doesn't have very good defensive metrics, like below average defensive metrics. Not terrible, but below average. And that second line for the Rangers has Kakko and Panarin on the top PP unit, so at least you get 2 out of 3 correlated. We've seen Strome and Panarin have a lot of success already this year. I mean, some of that's percentage driven, but I think there's a little bit of chemistry there with them. And they're cheap, right? Like they're 15.5 or something like that, 15.2
for the Strome line.
Yeah.
Okay, let me check on this really quick.
Or 16.2.
Yes.
16.2.
16.2. That's right.
So they're not expensive either. Like I said, that Nashville second line isn't that good defensively, and I think people will gravitate more towards Zibanejad trying to get the center with the ice time. Panarin's going to get ownership, Kakko's going to get ownership, but I think as a 3-man unit, I think the top line will be higher owned than the second line. And the second line from Nashville, like I said, is below average defensively. So if I were going to stack the Rangers, it would probably be the second line. I don't mind throwing D'Angelo in there with them, for that extra power play correlation, but it's not really necessary. But for me, I think in this game particularly, it's all about that Nashville top line. It's a great matchup, great power play matchup, full power play correlation, cheap price tag. You can fit in Josi with them. They're probably my favorite stack of the night.
Rangers 2 is your favorite stack of the night?
No, Nashville 1 I meant.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed there.
Yes.
I was downloading a crunch so I can plug in this ownership on my sheet. I think as far as 5-on-5 stacks, I mentioned I'm going to do some power play stacking, and they'll be included in that for sure. But perfect correlation for this top line, nice total. Rangers, you look at their metrics at 5-on-5 or even all strengths, they're just brutal, giving up a ton of shot attempts, scoring chances, expected goals, whatever metric you want to look at. They're near the top in terms of being the most generous, the most giving. It is the holiday season. So, Nashville 1, they look incredible to me. They are, let's see where they're at on our ownership projections. They're up there. Actually, they're not even up there that high. So, wow, that looks actually really underowned. So I saw Josi. He's one of the highest, expected to be one of the highest owned players of the slate. I think as he should be. On a normal slate where he's 7,300 and we got a ton of options and the pricing's a little more tight, maybe you get off of him a little bit, but I see absolutely no reason to get off of Josi here, especially with the ownership that we're showing, just over 20% on DraftKings. Nashville 1, I think probably the play I'm going to be most overweight on as far as top lines tonight. I don't think they're owned enough on our projections, just to reiterate. And then on the Rangers side, I'm getting more of the Zibanejad line. I I don't think I'm gonna be making a crazy stand on either of the top two Rangers lines, and probably won't have much of the third line as well. So hoping the Rangers stay pretty quiet, but it sounds like you're a little bit more on the Strome, Panarin, Kako line.
Yeah, just because I like their 5-on-5 matchup better.
Yep, I like it.
I think one thing I would do with Nashville too, or with Nashville's top line as well, is that let's say you're playing the 20 max like me tonight. Maybe I have Nashville 1 in 6 lineups. Maybe 2 of those 6 lineups I put in Duchesne instead of Yarn Krok, because if you're going to throw on Roman Josi, then you're making it a power play stack. And if you're making a power play stack, you're not going to want to forget about Duchesne, because I know he's lined up on the second line, but he's still going to be with them on the power play, and that's a very dangerous player on the power play. Just be aware that you should have some exposure to him in your Nashville power play stacks, as opposed to just running out the top line, a bunch of times.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just clicked on my cruncher on my Duchesne lineups. I only have a few of them, but a couple of them are going to be with the Johansson Forsberg stack, and then with Yossi as well. So good call. I'm definitely with you there. Did you mention you like Tony D on the Rangers side? And then what are you doing with like Trouba or Fox or any of these guys?
I mean, I'm probably not going to be rostering Fox. I think his price has come up enough where, I guess it's down technically from where it has been. But he's not, I don't know. I'm not really thinking that he gets heavy minutes. It looks like he's going to be on the third pair. If he's on the third pair, then he's playing 18, 19 minutes. Just not much interest for me. For me, if I'm taking any Rangers defenseman, it'll probably be D'Angelo. D'Angelo would go in my Ranger stacks. If I'm one-offing a defenseman, it'd be Trouba. Other than that, I'm not touching them.
Yeah. Wow, we've got a ton of people watching the show. I'm guessing people are just searching NHL, I don't know what's going on, or maybe a bunch of people are excited to play DFS. But
let's get some people excited in DFS.
Yeah, some. If you're coming here for some Hall trade news, maybe we could break it down after the show, or Cliffy can give you his quick reaction. It looks like I'm trying to refresh Twitter as you're talking, and just seeing it. It looks like it's official now. So. Pretty cool stuff. I'm excited that he's getting out of New Jersey and going to play some meaningful hockey down the stretch. Like I mentioned, one of my favorite guys to watch. I'm sure he's right up there for you as well.
Taylor Hall, it's funny. He's one of those guys that I thought he would never get the appreciation that he deserved, because he was rode out of Edmonton, even though he was their best player until Connor McDavid got there. Gets to New Jersey, single-handedly drags that team to the playoffs, wins the MVP, and now this guy's still getting derided. I don't know what more this guy has to prove. Like you said, he's so much fun to watch. When he gets the puck and he's going down that left wing with that wide stance, the long strides, he looks like a power forward, and he skates like Timo Solani used to skate. You know what I mean? It's just an incredible. He's an incredible talent. I don't want to say he's a guy who's a Hall of Fame talent who won't end up having a Hall of Fame career. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. While everyone is here and excited to talk hockey and DFS, if you could hit us with a like, that's always appreciated. I know pretty hacky there, but likes do help us, actually. So if you're here to learn about NHL DFS or talk more trades or whatever, hit us with the like button. That is much appreciated. All right, let's go to the next game. We've got the Capitals and the Blue Jackets. 3.3 implied total for the Caps, 2.7 for the Blue Jackets. Braden Holtby and Jonas Korpisalo in net. I'll just go through the Columbus lines. I can never keep track of whether or not they're the same from last game or over the weekend or what. But it's the top line is Jenner with Nyquist and Bjorkstrand, Dubois with Robinson and Texier, and then Wenberg with Foligno and Atkinson on your third line, the three-winger line, it appears. These lines are always subject to change because it is Columbus, but one clear spot, right, on the Columbus side, and then you've got a couple of lines to choose from on the Caps. Anything you're in love with here?
Not really. Like you said, I think there's one clear stack for Columbus, and it's the Jenner line. It looks like all three guys are going to be lining up on the power play. They're a cheap line. They're under 15K, which means you can throw in Seth Jones and that stack will come out to, under 21,000 or around 21,000. And Washington is a heavily penalized team. Like they're taking I believe it's the fourth most penalties in the league this year. So not that I'm very much enamored with the Columbus power play or what they're doing with it. But if I'm stacking the Jackets, I want to stack the line that'll probably get the most power play time. And I'm assuming it'll be the top power play unit. They, like you said, everything is subject to change when it comes to Columbus and their lines and their ice time allocation. But for now, Jenner, Nyquist, Bjorkstrand seems like a fine complementary line to use because perfect correlation. I mean, their metrics are good. Like I don't want to say they're great, but they're probably one standard deviation above league average, and I think that's probably all you can expect. That's the best you can expect from the Columbus Blue Jackets this year. So they're a good line. They're just not great. Mm-hmm. I kind of like them. And one of the reasons I like them is because I think Washington is considerably worse defensively this year than last year. I don't know what's going on. Games starting to rack up on the older players like Backstrom and Ovechkin and Oshie and Carlson, all those guys on the wrong side of 30. I don't know what's going on. This is a pretty good defensive team last year, and they haven't really been so far this year. The second line is better matchup, but it looks like the Dubois line is going to see them. And I don't really, I don't want to go out stack Tessier and Eric Robinson, on a 5-game slate. So I'll probably take the slightly worse matchup with the perfect power play correlation, Jenner, Bjorkstrand, Nyquist. If you want to do something like take out Jenner and add in Dubois in a couple of the lineups, I'm fine with that just to keep the power play correlation and maybe differentiate a little bit. That's where I'm looking. As far as the Washington side, like, I don't know, man. Like, it's not a good matchup. Like, Columbus is a pretty good defensive team. They're one of the top 5 defensive teams by expected goals against last time I looked. So, obviously, that team is good enough, has enough studs and enough horses on that roster to just blow the doors off any opponent. I'm just worried that with the depressed price, we're going to see a ton of ownership on them and in a matchup that's not really that good. So I think, like, for the Washington side, I'll probably have some of the second line, even with Vrana being on the second power play unit, because Vrana is probably the best offensive player on that line, and that's really saying something with considering Kuznetsov and Oshie are there. So I do have some interest in that second line from Washington, but I don't think it's a very good matchup, and I think they're going to be they're going to be highly owned here. If you look at our ownerships, Ovechkin, no surprise, the top guy owned. Now, Backstrom also in the top 10. Like, they might be the highest owned stack of the night. And like I said, I don't think it's a good matchup. So I don't think I'll have any of Washington 1. I'll have some Washington 2. I'll have some Columbus 2. Other than that, I'm going to largely stay away from this game. I don't think it's like we've seen the totals come down during the day. I think a lot of people are thinking what I'm thinking, and that there's just not going to be a lot of goals here.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find stuff I love on the capital side. Like, I usually crunch out a ton more lineups than I need just to see if I can get some unique combinations that might work, as far as like being a lower projected lineup, but one that has almost no ownership. And like, you're getting ownership on these capital skaters, especially Ovechkin. He's always going to get ownership when the pricing is soft. And that's no different tonight. But we've even got like Backstrom up near 20. Tom Wilson usually lags behind. The Kuznetsov line, a little bit lower owned, but have you seen their line stats so far this season? Like, they've been really poor defensively. I know it's a short sample.
Yeah, but that's what I was talking about, is that Washington's not nearly as good defensively this year as they are last year. Yeah. The second line, it's 2.8 expected goals against per 60, and the top line is 2.7. Like, those are bad numbers. So, like, normally I wouldn't have a ton of interest in Columbus, but in this matchup, short slate, decent pricing, full power play correlation, I don't know how I get away from it either.
Yeah. So CBJ 1, I think, is the obvious stack, and it's also the one that I'm on. Like the Dubois line is weird if you're using an optimizer because you've got Dubois who's going to grade out as an okay play for 5,400, and then he's got two wingers under 3K, so like he's going to pop up, but I don't know if I'm going to X him out, but I might just like limit the Dubois line as a full stack to like 3 to 5% on this slate, and get him in a couple spots, but not really a line I want to play. Like Atkinson is 6K, he's not supposed to be on the top power play. I don't know. Columbus is kind of a mess outside of the top line, but that's the one that everyone's going to want to play tonight. So I don't think I'm getting that different with this game outside of probably just being underweight on the Caps.
I mean, like, I don't mind. Here's the thing is I don't mind that Columbus third line, actually. They have really good offensive numbers in a small sample. I mean, when we always talk crap about Wenberg. Last time we did that, I think he went out and had, was it 2 goals or a goal and assist or something like that? I mean, like, they have perfect correlation. The thing is that they're so cheap. They're what, 10,200?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know, like, if you stack them, can you spend enough to even reach the salary cap through the rest of the slate because of how broken the rest of the lines are? Like, if you stack them with Washington 1, you're at 20. You have $22,000 left for your 2 defensemen and your goalie. Like, you could probably do Washington 1 with Carlson, adding Yossi, and then a $7,500 goalie with that Columbus third line. So, like, I don't know if you like. There's no reason to go all the way down to use them, but I do like them. So, maybe you want to use a 2-man stack of Wenberg and Atkinson or something like that. I don't mind that. I don't mind getting exposure to Atkinson on this slate at all. It's just because of the pricing, there's no real need to go that far down.
Yep. Defensemen, we've got Carlson, Orlov on the power play for the Caps, and then Seth Jones and Savard on the second unit for the Blue Jackets. Both guys I like on the Columbus side, especially Jones, obviously, but Savard as a guy you're punting with, probably going to be higher owned than your other call at 2,700 in Hainsey. So that might be a nice pivot, actually, playing Hainsey off of Savard.
Yeah, and Savard's probably going to get a lot of minutes in this game too, right? Because they're missing Werenski and they're missing Ryan Murray and I think one other guy. Like it's like Ottawa, they're missing a lot of guys on the blue line. So I think Savard probably, he's been playing 19 minutes a game this year. He probably sees 22 or 23 tonight.
Yeah. All right, let's go to a couple more games. Colorado, St. Louis will start with 2.7 implied total for the Avs, 2.9 for the Blues. Philip Grubauer and Jordan Binnington in net. We've got a defending Stanley Cup champion hosting one of the more exciting teams in the NHL, a team that's getting healthy. His top 6 looks about as good as any top 6 as you're going to find around the NHL, but not projected to see a lot of goals being scored here. Where do you think they're coming from on either side, or is this a game low total that you're kind of looking to get away from?
I am looking to get away from it. 2 things. One, I don't mind the Shen Schwartz Kyrou line here on this slate. They have pretty good numbers in a small sample. I mean, it's a really small sample. We're talking, I think Kyrou's been there for 4 games. But they're probably going to be matched up against Colorado's second line. And what I talked about in my power play articles today is that there's perception that Gabriel Landeskog and Nazem Kadri are these great 2-way forwards. But when you actually look at the results and their underlying metrics over the last, 3-4 years, they're below average. So you have Kadri and Landeskog, which on paper, I think a lot of people would assume is a good defensive line, not really showing that well defensively. I mean, Donskoy and Kadri, Donskoy is on the other wing. Donskoy and Kadri this year have been on the ice for 3.4 expected goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Like, that's horrific. Mm-hmm. Like, absolutely. Like, you'd expect that from, like, the 2015 Buffalo Sabres, not from what is a Stanley Cup contender. And adding Landeskog there, I don't think makes him that much better defensively. So Shen, Schwartz, and Kyrou are probably going to see them most of the game, and I like that matchup a lot. The problem is it's a broken power play correlation. Kyrou plays on the second power play, not the first one. But I mean, it's a spot where he's 2,700. So even if he just gets 3 shots on goal with an assist, like that's a smash night for him. So I do like that Colorado or that St. Louis line of Schenn, Schwartz, and Kyrou. I mean, I like the Colorado top line as well, but where they're priced down, you're probably going to see a ton of ownership on them. And like Washington, I don't think this is a very good matchup. St. Louis really drags down the pace of play. So if Colorado's going to get 4 or 5 goals here, they're probably going to have to do it on 25 to 30 shots rather than 35 to 40 shots. So with less shot volume, I'm less inclined to use Colorado. If I were to do anything, I'd get away from the ownership and go and drop down to Kadri. The Kadri, Donskoy, Landeskog line. You can add Nathan MacKinnon as a one-off if you want, especially if you're going to leave off Donskoy to get the power play correlation. But I just think this is a pretty bad matchup for Colorado, and I think the ownership is going to be higher on them than it should be on a 5-game slate in a bad matchup.
So we think that O'Reilly, Perron, Sanford is probably going to match with McKinnon, Rantanen, right? And then and then Schenn, Schwartz, Kyrou, as you said, against the Kadri line. So I'm on the same page with you with the Schenn, Schwartz, Kyrou line. That's the line I like better. I have about double the exposure right now to that line compared to the O'Reilly line. I think ownership is on the same track. O'Reilly's higher owned than Schenn right now. So maybe that line's grading out on other projection systems. I know it's close for us, but I think it's going to be the better matchup for the Schenn line. So that's the line I lean to, especially when the ownership is similar. And then as far as the Avs, I know it's like I'm always looking to play these guys, especially being an MME player, but like I don't see really anything I love, especially if McKinnon's going to be hard matched against O'Reilly. I know he can do it against anyone, but when you add in the increased ownership for Colorado here, like I'd rather just make more Florida power play stacks, get some more Columbus one or play some more Dallas or Edmonton power play stacks or something like that than be playing a line that I think is in a really tough spot and is getting ownership in McKinnon, Rantanen.
Yeah, and like one thing with Colorado is a lot of their value comes from the power play, right? And St. Louis on the season is 26th in giving up power play opportunities. So like they don't give much to the opposition at all. And they're giving up the 5th fewest shot attempts for 60 minutes this year on the penalty kills. So this is a terrible matchup at 5-on-4 for Colorado. So I don't know, man. It always feels real like I'm doing the 20 max, so you got to make some cuts somewhere. And it always feels real bad when you got to say I'm fading Nathan MacKinnon on a short slate, but kind of looks like that's what I'm going to be doing here tonight.
Yeah, me too. Pretty brutal. Sam Girard, $3,700 for him, top power play. I couldn't see using him much unless we're talking about a Colorado power play stack, but just said my thoughts on that. Pietrangelo at 5,600. Where is he compared to guys like Clefbaum, Jones? He's not probably on Yossi's level, but is he in that second tier for you tonight at 5,600?
Yeah, he is. Like if where I don't have Yossi, I'll probably be stuffing in Pietrangelo because if St. Louis does do damage, like he's almost certainly going to be involved. Like from watching the last couple of years, it seems like he's jumping up into the play a lot more than he did earlier in his career. It seems like it's just something he's got more comfortable with. I kind of almost see him taking that John Carlson path where he was solid earlier in his career and then becomes a power play offensive specialist later in his career like Carlson is doing. Obviously, I don't expect him to put up the points that Carlson is, but I think that's kind of where Pietrangelo's game is going. So if the Blues put up 4 or 5 goals here tonight, pretty good chance that Pietrangelo is going to be heavily involved. So yeah, I do like him, but like you mentioned, a tier below Yossi.
Yep, 100%. All right, last game of the night, Edmonton and Dallas, 2.3 implied total for the Oilers, 3.1 for the Stars. If you guys could hit the like button before we get out of here, before you leave us, right when we're done with this game, that would be very much appreciated. It helps us continue to do this kind of content for free. And participate in our giveaway, as well as all of our other free stuff. The giveaway link is in chat. All right, goalies, Koskinen and Ben Bishop. in net. I think I said the implied totals already, but we've got McDavid with Zach Kassian and Joakim Nygard apparently going to start on the top line again. Edmonton switches their lines around as much as anyone. Probably will see Draisaitl with McDavid at some point this game, especially if they're trailing. Draisaitl listed with Neal and Sam Gagner, and then Nugent Hopkins centering the third line with some creative players. And then you've got the stars, Sagan, Ben, Radulov back together for now. Hintz, Pavelski, and Matthias Janmark on the second line. And their shutdown, Dallas 3, Faxa, Como, Cogliano. They've used them in shutdown a couple times. You think we see that here?
Yeah, it kind of looks like that's what it's going to be. It's going to be that line hard match against McDavid. I mean, Godspeed to them. That's not going to be easy. So when I look over this slate, one thing that jumped out to me is I wanted to get a lot of McDavid and Draisaitl, and then we get the news that McDavid and Draisaitl are again split up on lines. Now, not to go on a rant, but I think Leon Draisaitl is by far the most overrated player in the NHL. Like, not even close. It's him in a distant first for being overrated. Now, if you look at his numbers since the start of the 2017 season, when he's playing away from Connor McDavid, Draisaitl on the ice without Connor McDavid at 5-on-5, 12% drop in shots, 22% drop in expected goals, 43% drop in actual goals. Like, almost his goal scoring his lines goal scoring is almost halved compared to playing with McDavid. Now, McDavid's drops without Draisaitl, but it's not even anywhere as close. Like, his goals for dropped by like 22%. Draisaitl's dropped by twice that. And so it gives us this conundrum where, like, I don't think you can stack either of the even strength lines for Edmonton. I don't think you can do that. Maybe you get away with it. Like you mentioned, I think it's going to be 10, 15, 20 minutes into the game before they go back to McDavid and Draisaitl on the top line.
Yeah.
So where to go with Edmonton lines, I think it's just power play stat.
Yep. I
think that's the only thing you can do here. I wouldn't, I'm not rolling out 25% Joakim Nygard. You know what I mean? I'm not rolling out 30% Sam Gagner. That's just a recipe to lose money. If the team does damage, it's probably going to be on the power play or until they reunite McDavid and Draisaitl. I think that's why you're seeing the implied total go down. Also, when you saw them split up, I think that's why you see the implied total go down. Now, the Ben, Sagan, and Radulov line hasn't been that great this year compared to years past. Now, if it's coaching, maybe it's something different with a new coach now. I don't know. Maybe it's just they're all getting old. I mean, I think Sagan's the youngest out of all of them at 28 now. Ben's over 30. Radulov's like 34, 35. Maybe it's just them getting a little bit older, but they do have perfect power play correlation. Just looking over our own ownership, there's a good chance this line is the highest owned line of the night. I kind of like the second line. Pavelski with Roope Hintz and Matthias Janmark. They're cheap. Hintz and Pavelski have really good numbers together this year, like 2 standard deviations above in expected goals for. So they're really, really good offensively. They're going to be seeing just the utter trash from Edmonton. Like, we're talking the third and fourth lines. And like you said, they're just creative players by the time you get to that point. They do see their fair share of power play minutes too. I mean, Hintz and Pavelski played the top power play unit with Sagan and Ben last game. So I'm completely fine with fading the top line and going to the second line instead. I think they played just as well as the top line has this year, at least offensively speaking. They're cheaper and they're going to come in at lower ownership. So for me, I don't really mind either of the top lines from Dallas. I could see myself with more Dallas 2 than Dallas 1 just because I want to get away from some ownership, and I think they're probably just as good offensively.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be more overweight on Dallas 2 at the very least. Dallas 1 is, they look like the best play they're going to project as the best play in this game if you're talking about 3-man stacks, but I don't know. I mean, I just don't feel like I'm going to be getting much of an edge by playing them tonight because you know who they're going to go with. They're going to go with the other mid-tier lines, whereas I think an Edmonton power play stack, well, it's a low probability that it pays off here with like McDavid and Draisaitl's prices. I think it's probably going to go a little bit under-owned. So I like stacking up McDavid, Draisaitl, Neal, Nugent Hopkins, something like that. Like 3 out of those 4 with McDavid being the anchor. Like I might even make rules in Fantasy Cruncher where it's just like if I play Draisaitl, you have to play McDavid. If I play Neal, you have to play McDavid, that type of thing. Or like 2 out of 3 of, McDavid, Clefbaum, and someone else. So just guys that are on the top power play. Dallas is taking a lot of penalties this season. And maybe they get hot. I think Edmonton still has the number 1 power play if you just go by like success rate so far this season. So yeah, they're at 32.4%. Wow, that's even higher than I thought. Heiskanen is the guy like on the blue line for the Stars, 5,300. He killed me the other night, but I'm going right back to him. And then Nurse's price refuses to go up when he's not getting in fights. He's that's a pretty good price for him at 4,200. And then Klingberg's kind of the guy that's getting left out for me a little bit at 4,800, not on that top power play. Anything else in this game?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I think that's about it. Like you hit it. I'm probably going to have more Dallas 2 than Dallas 1. And I think Edmonton power play stack is the only way to go on that side of the game. So yeah, that's about it.
All right. Do you want to think of a 1% owned hat trick tonight? And I think we might even pick one from the same line. But if you had to pick a guy, actually, it's a smaller slate. Let's do like a sub 5% guy that you think could get a hat trick tonight. Who do you think that would be for yourself?
I haven't checked the ownership, but I can't imagine he's that high, so I'll say Cam Atkinson.
That's a good pick. I thought you might go with Hintz for Dallas there. He's under 5%. A guy I like that we talked about in the first game is Tkachuk. So I think we've got him at around 2% ownership, but I doubt he gets anywhere over 5 in a lot of these tournaments. So I'm posting the links in chat here. There you go, boom. There's the 1% hat tricks. Not quite 1%, but same sort of thing. It's hard to do that on a 5-game slate. I mean, unless you want to pick Kara or something for Edmonton.
Yeah, when you said 1%, I was like, what's Robert Thomas's ownership percentage?
Yeah, pretty good candidate. I think he might be under 1%. But we do have this giveaway going on. I posted the free links to everything. We have NHL projections for free today if you guys want to check those out or plug them into Fantasy Cruncher. Those are free, so that's what you're getting for today. Monday night giveaway. Guess the player that's going to score the most fantasy points. You have a chance to win an Osmo Plus NFL Pass. Pretty simple. It's free. No reason not to do it, especially if you're going to be watching the game. Gives you some stake if your fantasy teams suck, which mine probably will. So let's see. Maybe don't guess Michael Thomas. It looks like about 50% of the people have guessed him so far. So if you're into game theory, you don't want to just have a 1 in 50 chance after he's the highest scoring player. Maybe guess someone a little bit off the radar, someone on the Colts, possibly. Yeah, should be an interesting Monday night game. Anything else before we close it out here?
Slam in as much Yossi as you can fit.
I definitely second that opinion. And shout out to Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports for sponsoring us. Go check out their NFL, NBA, NHL contests. They're offering lower management fees, and it's much weaker competition, and that's better for your long-term ROI. Thanks for watching, guys, and Nolan and I will be back tomorrow.